Hey there, guys. Welcome to the channel. I am Rain Graham, the fabulous Fennec for our channel, and we are starting a new program here called PokeProfessionals. I have with us today the fantastic final last Omnitech. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hello, everybody. I'm the last Omnitect, your favorite robot American, and you guys can find me on Bluesky Patreon. I do webcomics, TTRPG work, and wargaming. So,
I'm
honored to be here, buddy.
I'm going to have all that down for you guys down below in the comments section in the description, just so you guys can check on their work. They're doing a lot of fabulous stuff in the TTRPG sphere. So for PokeProfessionals, this is actually me, riding that wave of popularity I've been having lately. You guys seem to have loved the PTU system video, even though it is apparently like roughly 10 years out of date. But you know what? Pokemon is forever. In this video series, I'm going to be basically discussing fun TTRPGs with professionals as I make them a Pokemon trainer for a Pokemon game. In this one, we are going to be starting with the general question, what kind of trainer would you like to be?
Oh boy. So this is where I surprise no one that knows me and everyone that doesn't. I actually love bug types. Ever since I was a kid, my favorite Pokemon has always been Beedrill. That will never change. I just love his adorable his power drill fists. And yeah, so I've always played Pokemon with a bug-themed team. If that's not the primary, it's at least the secondary typing on all my Pokemon.
In that case, we will have to confirm that Beedrill is definitely going to be your starter. For those that, since this is the one setting things up, I'm going to make a couple things clear. Just because I know I love rules and I want people to know how things are working. We're going to be making a beginner trainer, level 1, none of the extra stuff, just all the starting fun things. Everybody's going to be having their Pokemon start at level 10. That way we can have some fun stuff to work with and not just the usual pound and, Leer or whatever. Other than that, let's get that Beedrill set up for you. While we're doing that, why don't you tell me a bit about what you're currently working on?
Awesome. So right now, I'm currently working on 2 TTRPG projects and 2 webcomics. So I've been doing the 2 webcomics are both themed after one Helldivers called Gentry Delon Ain't No Fascist, and is an anti-fascist exploration of opposing power in a system that crushes you. We don't know what that's like. And the other one is a webcomic called Brothers, A Tale of Treachery and Doom, which is set in grimdark future. Those of you familiar with 40K, think that, but does a bit of a different, slightly more user-friendly version of it. And that one's been a fun going thing. But TTRPGs, I actually make my own. I've been making my legacy First Flight TTRPG system for almost 20, actually no, more than 20 years now. I'm 36. My God, that feels weird to say.
It does hurt
So
to say, doesn't it?
yeah, I feel the Matt Damon meme. I'm aging slowly, becoming translucent. But yeah, I've been working on Legacy First Flight for 20 years, a science fiction space opera setting with mechs, starships, and space magic. Not quite Pathfinder. I tend to skew it a little more towards like firm science fiction, if that makes sense.
No, totally does it.
Um,
Starfinder is a lot of fun, but there's a lot of like magic and looseness, and it's like sometimes you want hard science.
yeah, exactly.
What's
I'm
that
not
saying?
quite
It's
going
magic. I
full on
don't gotta
expanse.
explain shit.
Yeah, exactly. I'm aiming more for a Mass Effect Expanse
Hmm.
kind of vibe than Star Wars or Pathfinder or Starfinder, I should say. And the rule system I'm actually adapting to another game, ironically, a Monster Trainer game, which is called Summoner the Wild Hunt,
Ooh.
and sort of set in a more primal fantasy style setting, inspired very heavily by the old game Jade Cocoon and Princess Mononoke.
Uh-huh.
So if folks are excited about the idea of not just, using Pokemon, but also fighting alongside your monstrous spirits and unleashing arcane stuff that's also rooted in very much a finding the balance of nature kind of vibe, then I think you'll dig it. It's been very slow going. I'm doing all these projects at once, and I'm a one-man act. So yeah, there's a reason it's taken 20 years of doing Legacy. I did all of it myself, art, rules, writing, everything. And it's still in an alpha, so
People don't realize that when you're a one-man show, you're doing all that stuff and then still trying to keep a life going.
yeah, yeah.
Uh,
It's been a lot.
so if you're actually making your own, I actually did not know about the monster game one, so this is something fun for me to delve into then. Before we do that though, if you wanted to be a bug trainer, what kind of niche do you want to fill in the bug trainer world?
So I actually been bandying about like a character for a theoretical Pokemon TTRPG for a long time. I
Ooh.
love researchers. Um, I'm a huge dork for like this is the old Boy Scout in me. I'm an Eagle Scout of
Mm,
old, and I've always been interested in ecology. And the folks that always impress me the most are the actual park rangers and researchers who do the hard work of like actually studying the ecology of the world. These are the
nice.
guys that pull on galoshes and they go into the rivers and they take samples and do studies.
The ones with the
And
vials
it's
looking all getting into
yeah,
the
exactly.
mud. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I come from Florida, so I used to visit the Everglades and see the conservationists taking care of it. And that's the kind of researcher I want to be, a field researcher, somebody who's out there using technology and know-how and sort of getting dirty in the pursuit of their study. So less Professor Oak, more Pokemon Ranger. I can't remember the name of the one, but the professor from Pokemon Go. More that vibe, I
I
feel.
know who you're talking about. I actually played Pokemon Go when it first came out, and I got so bored because all of it was capture Pokemon, don't care about them, turn them into candy. And I was like, that isn't what I want in a Pokemon game. If that's the
Yeah,
case,
yeah,
then
you're not
I'm
wrong.
going to say that you're probably going to be a type-based bug and researcher type, because Pokemon Tabletop United has researcher as a class, and it has so many subtypes. Uh,
Let's
I'm
go.
assuming if you want to mess around with all the tech and just be the smartest man around, I'm going to recommend Gen Ed and Tech as or your researcher. There is a type that does all sorts of like gem researchers and artificer stuff, so I think that'll fit perfectly. I'm actually kind of curious while I'm setting that up. Then, what do you mind telling us more about this one Pokemon or not Pokemon? This one beast capture game you have? Because I know I have some niches I love in capture games that don't get pulled up in a lot of them. Like, I'd love to hear more about it.
Sure. So, Summer the Wild Hunt is set in a parallel world, in a slightly different setting than a lot of like the other existing ones. It is a primal fantasy game, so we're set in an Iron Bronze Age setting, no more advanced than that. And in this world, the mortals that are on it, the people like you and me, they're referred to as creatures of knowledge or creatures of will. These creatures of will have grown on this giant god tree, which is the equivalent of the planet called Olan. Hence, Summoners in the Shade of Olan is what the other tagline used to be. Um, Basically, long and short, they used to be these spirits that these folks capture and train, hence Summoner. These spirits actually used to be the ones who would take care of the world for us. But humanity long ago betrayed Alon and attempted to cage it. No one's really sure exactly what happened. Again, primal fantasy setting, the mystery is part of it baked in. But the end result is these spirits went from being our keepers to our jailers. And now mortals are contained within these areas called glades, where spirits will not harass them, so long as they maintain the balance of nature within and don't destroy it. If they do, the spirits will descend on them and murder them wholesale. So summoners run as intermediaries between the needs of mortals and the needs of spirits and nature. So it's a very simple system in terms of like it's got a four elemental base structure, so fire, water, wind, earth, the classic four.
Hmm.
But the other advantage of it is that it's actually designed to combine these spirits as well. So there's a merging mechanic that's built into this, as well as also a slow evolutionary mechanic. The way I describe it is it's not just Pokemon, it's basically three different types of monster taming styles. So we
I think
have
yeah.
the keepers, Pokemon trainers. We have the and I actually had to open this up, it's been a bit. Um
That's how you know it's a good system when you have to reference your own stuff.
Yes, exactly. I've been back and forthing on this for a bit, but here we go. Okay, so Summoner's Codex is open. So we have the keepers, which are the traditional Pokemon trainers. They can have anywhere from like one to three of these spirits, basically running alongside them,
Hmm.
and they fight alongside them, using them as allies. You have the Invoker, who is more of the exact opposite. They're the Shaman King style trainers. They don't actually have the spirits alongside them. They literally channel them through their own bodies and become supernatural themselves.
Also, it's like that Ash Greninja style Digimon kind of thing.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And then finally, there's callers. Callers turn into their spirits.
Mm.
So where you have invokers channel divine magic through their bodies and literally become superpowered versions of themselves. Callers are kind of more like the Final Fantasy Aeon summon deal, where they
Oh.
literally swap themselves out with their spirits and directly control
Just kind
them.
of like doing that thing where they pass each other in the tunnel and do a hand clap and take over. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. All of them behave the same way in glades, where their spirits can walk freely amongst them, and they are self-aware entities. They're alien, but they are very much their own personalities. And no matter what, you can only ever have three on you at a time. So
I
it forces
yeah.
you to either merge to cover elemental differences or play around them.
I honestly appreciate that. Part of why I like this system so much, the one we're currently building characters, by the way, Pokemon Tabletop United, please watch my videos, is anytime I've ever played a game that had summoners as a class, everybody's summon is exactly the same. And I tended to get this like, but that doesn't sound fun. Like part of the fun of like being a summoner is like getting something different and working with it differently and everybody having like a niche. If it's just everybody has the same summon, they're just all pulling them from the same spot. It's like, here's 6 eggs, they're all the same. I I think that sounds exactly the kind of thing I'd like, where it's like I want to be able to fiddle with them and be like, mine's unique, and this is why it's unique, and it's different. If I fought somebody
Yeah.
with the same spirit, I don't want to feel like we're doing the exact same mirror match, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Basically, the spirits inside of Summoner are effectively NPCs that you level with you. And they actually share and grow their own experience pools with you as well. So you can
Nice.
customize and tweak them. And also, the merging mechanic, as you capture spirits, if you find one that you're like, I like that ability, but I like my old buddy, you can actually literally weave their souls together to create a new one that's a combination of both. And that allows you to sort of bootstrap abilities together onto a spirit that you really like. And it allows you to literally make your own. Don't think of them as Pokemon or Digimon. Think of them as
Persona.
evolving spirits.
I was
Yeah,
gonna say, like,
exactly.
it's Persona
Persona is
Velvet
really
Room. Like, the coolest thing about making your own game is taking all the stuff you like from individual stuff
fun.
and just filing off the serial numbers and smushing it together.
Exactly. These are not just adorable little creatures that sort of walk into battle beside you. These are basically ancient divine beasts that just happen to be your buddy. And my favorite part of it, of the whole system, is actually the capture mechanic. The idea behind it is that when Olan turned these beasts into our jailers, it did so by basically altering their relationship with us. It forced them into a predatory viewpoint on humans. They are not okay with this. These spirits have been effectively enslaved into this new task. And so, what spirits of will bring to the table is the ability to give free will back to these creatures. But to do so, you need to reach them psychologically. So it can be as simple as pissing them off, actually appealing to them morally, providing them with compassion, something. But if there's an actual emotional connection between you and that spirit, that's the capture mechanic, and effectively changes that bond between the spirit from being bound to Olan's will to yours.
I really like that. It's a thing in a game I'm currently a player in. Just gonna say, hey Wally, thank you for introducing me to the system. I'm gonna be making a character based on you for the future. But in the game we play, it's not just you throw a ball. We actually do often try to pull the who I'm gonna jokingly and quite seriously say the James method, where almost every Pokemon James ever caught in Pokemon, he got because the Pokemon liked him and just said, "Oh, I'll come with you." I like it when
Right.
you have that involvement of like, hey, sometimes you build a connection, and sometimes it's through weird memes. In the system we're playing, Dragon Pokemon tend to want you to fight them a bit. They're a little sassy. They're yandere. They want you to get up in there and like make them want to come with you. I more than once have had to fist fight a dragon to make them want to join my team. That actually leads me to another interesting question, just for some fun topical things. What's a notable? I'm assuming you've been play testing the hell out of this, right?
I am right now still writing this system, but I've been playtesting the core rule system for literally 20
In
years.
that
So
case,
yes.
that this still works then. What is like a notable moment from like your playtesting that you've done that you just like that stuck with you? Is like I'm on the right track.
So for a long time, the bones of the system I've bounced back and forth between different ideas. But way back at the beginning, I decided to make it an exploding dice system, which means when you roll the highest number on a die, you roll it again and keep doing it until you stop rolling the highest number and add it all together. And when I was first doing this, all my friends were playing D&D and D20 systems, D100 systems that have a finite limit to how high you can roll, and they were unsure about it. But I remember one particular moment, pretty recently actually, using the Legacy Core system, where a friend of mine was hacking something, and it was a pretty high bar, and I was like, I'm not sure you're going to get it. But if you do, there's some crazy stuff that can happen, so give it a shot. 20 on a d20. Okay, keep rolling. Another 20, another 20. And literally, I think he got like a 300. Like something ludicrous. And I was like, okay, yeah, no. I got to take this, what I thought, he was literally trying to hack a mech that was trying to crush him. And I did not think it was going to work. And then he does this, and I'm like, so I have mechanics for blowing mechs up, and I feel like I should let you know you can detonate it. And he's like, I will. And he literally glassed an entire landing platform and saved the party effectively. Took what was looking like a fighting retreat into an actual, like, he won the battle. And everyone at the table was roaring in approval and super excited. And I was sitting there like, that's exactly what I want in my games. I want fun. I don't mind, like, if balance gives way to fun for the players. As long as it's a step on each other, that's what I want.
I think there's a big thing that people miss in TTRPGs. Like, anybody that follows me on Bluesky is gonna know I'm definitely a guy that advocates for balance and fair play. But you also, part of balance is having imbalance in such a way that, like, you need the highs to go with the lows. If your system is just neutral all the way through, that's a very boring ride. You need moments where people can just be sitting there hooting and hollering and be like, hell yeah, I can't believe that happened. But you also need the opportunity to be like, oh shit, we fucking messed up, this is bad. Then that's something that you need in game systems, because you need that to have fun. If you're always winning, you're never going to feel like you actually won. But if you're always losing, then what's the point?
Yeah, exactly. I feel it's boxing training, right? Like, you want to be able to feel like you're actually gaining skill, like you're able to project force, but a good training session won't break your jaw,
Exactly.
right? And it's same thing here. You want players to feel the consequences of their actions, to feel like they have agency, that they are important and actually can do tasks and succeed beyond their wildest expectations sometimes. But it needs to be measured to the possibility of being able to fail, and it needs to be fun underlying that, and that's depending on each person. And that's why some systems work well for some people and some systems work horribly for them. I think it's a matter of finding what works for you best.
That's a whole TED talk I'm going to have to invite some people to, because I've had this thing where it's like, side tangent, we're going to pop away from PokeProfessionals just to go to mini rant time, but I think a lot of people bounce off of game systems and think that means they don't like TTRPGs, and no, you just didn't like that game system, or that system didn't work for the concept you'd want. Side tangent, I've read a couple people's Pokemon or Pokemon adjacent systems, and there's a lot of times where people make a game where it's like, this is a Pokemon, this is a Mon capture game, and it's like, it's like, cool, but everything about this doesn't feel like it's fun to capture a Mon, and then that's not the fantasy you're trying to capture. Speaking of capturing a fantasy, though, for researcher, I would recommend you take general researcher and tech researcher. If you take general researcher, there's a couple of cool things you get, including skills. I'm going to recommend that you get breadth of knowledge, which is the general researcher feat, and that lets you get 3 other skills off the bat. You're going to be a skill monkey on this one, basically. Everything.
Love it. I'm already on board.
That's going to be you. It also gives you something for free that you need for another feature, so it saves you some extra levels. I'm going to recommend that we give you basic skill occult, gem lore, and poke edu, which means that artificer thing you were trying to do is ready right off the bat, not even another level to wait to get it. On that note, though,
I love it.
What skills in PTU, something that people obviously ignore, going back to the thing about like highs and lows, what skills do you want to be bad at in this game? In this game, when you're creating a character, you have to pick 3 things that you're not that great at being at.
Interesting. That's not a question I very often hear, but it's a very good one, to be honest.
Roleplay means people be bad at things sometimes.
Yeah, no, for sure. I used to play World of Darkness, so I'm familiar with your dump stat is really a meaningful dump stat. Play around it. I would say in this case, considering my character is very much focused on research and field work, I don't see them actually being that good at like social in a lot of ways. Not necessarily a complete like putz about it, but capable of just not very focused on it. So I would say charm, guile, intimidate. Like I don't see them being incapable of them, but I just don't see them necessarily being things they've ever focused on.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like in PT, it's like your dump stat is still like you can do it. It's just you're not good at it.
Yeah.
For those
Like,
that
why
don't
is my
know,
guy gonna feel the need to like crack knuckles at somebody when he's waiting and reads all day, like up to his waist with water?
well, that's why you have a B drill. They handle that for you. They delegate tasks out. I honestly see this kind of character as one of the people where like they're the researcher where they don't have the time for all the political BS. They just want to get the thing done. It's like, why are we sitting here arguing about paperwork? We need to go and figure out what's happening. Why aren't the Weedles spawning?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. That sounds like that's right on the nose.
On that note, then, I'm going to say that your probably best skill is going to be your general ed, and then your novice skill will be survival, since you're out there in the woods. So let's set that up. Speaking of survival, what do you think has really been like your cornerstone for in TTRPG series? What's helped you keep yourself progressing in that? What do you think is like your core niche that helps you survive in the space?
Honestly, world building. I have been spending years making my own settings. I have a personal flavor thing where I have no, let's be honest. It's my OCD, it's ADHD. I have to make my worlds myself.
Mm-hmm.
I want to do that. And every time someone wants to play in a pre-made setting book or something, I'm fine playing someone else's homebrew all day long. But the second they bust out Strahd and put it on the table, I immediately lose interest. It's just a personal thing. And so for me, I find a lot of fun in building these worlds and exploring them and making them specifically for my friends. And I think that's been what's been very helpful for me. Like in terms of maintaining my niche. When people are like, "How does this work in your world?" And I just have an idea ready because I was ideating about it 15 years ago when I was trying to fall asleep, and I wrote like a little novel in my head about it, and I haven't told anyone yet. So that's
I,
been very fun. Combining that with art
I
has been a
think we're on
very
the same wavelength on that one too. It's like modules, fun. Modules can be great if you're trying to just get something done. Not gonna lie, I'm gonna forget what's in a module. If I write it, I'm gonna remember every detail because I fixated on
yes.
it for like 2 hours one day when I was just sitting there like working out or something. Just like, how would a Pokemon trainer get into a league? What's the paper? What's that like? What's the process? And I just spent like 2 hours visualizing just the entire thing in my head. And then I'm wondering why my legs hurt.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's sort of pivotal, and it also comes from the fact that I've been a visual artist for years. I've been drawing since I was in elementary school. I literally have done portrait work. I've done landscape painting. For a while, I was going to be an engineer, and then when I realized that it's way more math than what I wanted to do, I shifted my gears to a general degree, but it was basically an art degree. And so yeah, I've drawn my whole life, and so I have these images in my head of these worlds, these places I want to share. And so a lot of what I've done is art streams, broadcasting on Twitch, now on YouTube, where I'm building these worlds. It's why I work on webcomics now, basically. In addition to my TTRPG stuff, it's basically pure visual creation, and I love that. It's very freeing.
Honestly, I appreciate that so much. As somebody that also tried to go into a field that had more math than he thought it was going to have and then changed his mind, I fully appreciate that. I fully thought I was going to be a veterinarian when I was like 18 years old. And then I realized just how much math was involved with that. And it wasn't just, saving that poor dog on the table or whatever.
Yeah.
Jeez.
It's not even that math is bad. For the record, STEM is really important
STEM is
out there,
amazing.
but it is.
It's just not where
But
my
for
brain
me,
goes.
exactly, I'm actually good at math. It's why I got as far through engineering as I did. I just realized you can be good at something and loathe it at the same time. Unfortunately.
I feel that every time I have to go and like proofread something, it's like I'm good at reading, but I don't like it when I'm being forced to read it.
Yes. Oh my God,
Reading's
yes.
great when it's for fun. When it's being done as a job, it's like torture.
Yep.
Before I forget, we are now coming up into some of the fun parts of this. We have, because you took researcher, you actually freed yourself up to take so many more other edges, just because you're the smartest man on the smartest man on the team. I would recommend, if you're going to be the I'm creating everything I need out in the wild guy, I'm going to float you some ideas, and you tell me if these are bad.
Okay.
Apricorn balls. You can take apricorns, those little things, and make your own Pokeballs from them. Basic balls. You can create regular Pokeballs for really cheap, for like 1/5 of what they normally cost. And basic skill tech, which you need to do the basic ball thing.
I love those actually. The first Pokemon game that I owned when I was a kid, because I played the card game, I watched the TV show, all that. The first one I ever played actually was Silver. And
Oh, sweet.
I remember the Apricorn balls. I remember that whole thing.
Was that the
Yeah,
one
no,
where
I
they had a
actually
ball that was supposed to work with like moonstones, but they coded it wrong, and it was actually with burn heal or something, so it never worked properly?
yeah, there was honestly, I just sort of used it to make like a million quick balls. But yeah, no, I love the idea of the Apricorn balls and the general tech. I think that's a great concept right there.
That actually brings me to another question I wanted to ask you. What do you think? Going back to the fact that you made your own kind of like mon catching system. What do you think is something that you're bringing unique to it outside of like the spirits and the capture mechanic? What's something that makes it like different than the rest of the things?
Great question. For me, I think it's the setting. A lot of monster capture sort of deals in this very kind of high fantasy or usually very fantastical style setting, whereas for Summoner, what it really is an Iron Age story. So you do have magic for sure. It is a world of magic, but it is a world of magic where us as mortals don't have access to it. That's what makes summoners so powerful. Our magic is our free will. And so as a result, these spirits are what give you that magic. So until you get those spirits, and even after you get them, 90% of your struggle is blade in hand and not gunpowder, not super advanced like weaponry. You are fighting with steel sword and leather and struggling against things that are trying to kill you. And I think that that is kind of what it brings to the table a little more. Is it's a slightly darker, grittier tale, but also it's a darker, grittier tale that focuses on empathy. Whereas a lot of similar stories tend to focus on the edgy spectacle of gore and violence.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing wrong with it if you're out there and you like it. I've got my Mortal Kombat in as a kid, but
We're not
I
here to
like
judge what you yum, but at the same time, there's certain things you're trying to capture. As much as I know people love those gritty games where it's like there's murder and the things can get knifed, and it's like cool, but that's not typically what I'm after in this fantasy. I want to just have my little dude there helping me survive.
exactly. And that's kind of the whole point of Summoner at the end of the day. Your goal is to find balance. The people of this world, spirits of will, have their needs, and nature has its needs too. Your job is to square the circle and find somewhere between those 2 points the empathetic center to try to help people survive and help spirits endure. And I think that's something of value.
Honestly, I love that. Just one as a game basis, and just two as a just regular life thing. Uh, Ironically enough, that's literally what I'm basing my next campaign on. Is I'm making a Pokemon campaign. If anybody watches me on Bluesky again, I'm literally, if you search just noodling, that's me posting about bullshit for Pokemon. My premise is just I wanted a game where it actually captured the feeling of like we are connected. There's a bond. We actually have to work together because let's face it, we love Pokemon, but the writing for the games is kind of shit sometimes. Let's be honest, and it doesn't really
Yeah,
feel like they talk a big game about like bonds and connections, but it doesn't really feel like it's there. To go back with what you're saying about like the Bronze Age,
yeah.
Iron Age, all that, it's just I want games that push people to have to work together, mechanically and roleplay based. It feels like a lot of times it's everybody's waiting for their turn for a light to shine on them instead of on everyone. When you're
Yeah.
playing in your games, is there anything specifically that you try to focus on to make sure that the entire group is a focus instead of just individuals?
Yeah. So usually I try to focus on their impact on the world.
Mm.
So I have this long-standing perspective in my head that wherever they go, I'm charting their impact more than anything. Some folks have the story that they're telling that the players are sort of on the rails for. Other folks have like a grand story that's unfolding. For me, I tend more the second. So I have an overarching idea of the way the world is moving. I want to see how my players will shift it. And so that often means their relationships with each other and the people around them. And I'm constantly trying to bring that back into focus. It's very easy for me to take like 5 minutes and focus on one person, but I always try to get multiple players in the same scene wherever I can. And I often try to get them in the same scenes with people in the world they've impacted as well. And that tends to help. Also, with summoners especially, they have their spirits with them 24/7. So, and for them, they can communicate with them. And for some, it's primal. Different spirits have different levels of like complexity. Some are literally just brute force, very primitive animals that they can sort of feel the urges. And for others, they can basically talk. But at the end of the day, every one of them is a foil for those characters, a reflection of who they are. And so basically, it's like I have them walking with a cast of perfectly mirrored characters following them. And I think that's very fun to play off of each other and to sort of drag them together into those moments and to give them empathy too.
It's almost like literally wearing your emotions on your sleeve. It's like, I know you're pretending you're calm, but I can see a spirit currently is literally shaking. What's going on?
Yeah, exactly. And the different, also on top of that, I feel like part of it is how they work with their spirits as well. One of the things I emphasize in Summoner is that there is no one way to bind a spirit to you. Everyone does it differently. Whether that be their actual method of making that connection, like it's just as valid if you want to be the Gary Oak style person to piss off the Pokemon or to piss off the spirit and get it to bind to you. Sure, that works. Or if you want empathy, those are two different methods, but also the way that they're stored vary. So some people can say, as an example, whittle a little wood effigy of the spirit and keep it on their person, or sew a cloth and bind it in with arcane like ink. Things like that. All of them are different. Like there's one person who wants to etch gourds into little bird houses for their spirits. All those work. And I feel like building those personal relationships, building that personality for themselves helps them stand alone and stay in character with each other and the world.
That feels very mage, almost like how the way you focus on that connection actually there's like a more of a presence of yourself than another. It's like for some people it's like a tangible crafting thing where it's like if I make an amalgam of what I think they are, that is them. Like psychometry, mage is weird that way. But I also,
Yeah.
that actually leads me to another question. Do you have any instances where it becomes kind of like, for those that don't know, Paul is a trainer from the Pokemon series who only cared about power and was kind of a dick to all of his Pokemon. Do you have any instances where in your system that actually has repercussions?
Yes. So the way that it works is each spirit is effectively an individual.
Hmm.
They agree to bind to you because for them it gives them complexity and freedom from Olan. What it's referred to as the mandate of Olan is the thing that binds them into being our jailers and to opposing mortal life. Which, by the way, also the system isn't just humans. Technically, I don't have species in this. You can make whatever you want using those core rules based on what like settlement you're from and the elemental
Settings
alignment of your
can be
environment.
damned. Whatever somebody wants to make, it's just like make something funky. As long as it's in the setting, you're good. That kind of
Yeah,
vibe.
pretty much. Yeah, exactly. Like my thought is I want people to be able you want to make a goblin, you could totally make a goblin. You want to make a human, you can make a human. You want to make a cat person, it's totally viable. It all works.
We're
Olan's
playing in
massive. You can do
space,
whatever
and
you want.
there's just a xenomorph right there, but they've got spirits. That's how the system works.
All that matters is you have will. That is what makes us spirits of will. We are driven by our own self-determination. Spirits lack that. And so for them it's a symbiotic increasing of complexity. But as they get smarter, as they become more willful and independent, you eventually, your relationship with them will matter significantly. You absolutely can piss off a spirit so much that they look at you and go, I'd rather go back to the mandate of Ulan. And they can leave. And if they do, they instantly go from your best friend to an adversary because they are literally a spirit of Olan, and they immediately shunt back, and the mandate reapplies, and it's back to square one, but now with all the power they've accrued in your hands and knowledge of you intimately. So
So fucking over a spirit is generally a bad idea, because now they know your
usually.
address.
Exactly. It's important to realize, and I try my best not to set a judgment on it as well.
Mm.
Different spirits need different things. Different relationship dynamics can be different things. You can start off with a toxic relationship with your spirit, and hopefully eventually come to a better ending to it. But there
Sometimes you
is a
start off,
point.
yeah, yeah. Sometimes you start off
Yeah.
rough, and it's like, hey, this is how friendships start.
Gary Oak, right?
There's a reason I always named him something mean in the games when I played against him.
Exactly.
So given that, the fact I actually appreciate the fact that you purposely put away so it's like trainers can't just mistreat the hell out of their spirits, because I've played in a lot of games where people just like, what does it matter? They're just there. They're a mechanic, and it's like I don't. When I'm playing a mon catching game, I don't want them to just be a mechanic. I want them to be their own thing. That's what makes it fun for me. When you came up with this system, what was the thing that you were really apprehensive and worried that you needed to make sure was like mechanically backed up so that it didn't happen in the game and play? Does that make sense?
No, it absolutely does. And actually, what we were just talking about was precisely what I was worried about. One of the things that I like, the running joke, the running trope that everyone immediately points to Pokemon is it's basically dog fighting with
Mhm.
sapient creatures.
Yeah.
And, and admittedly, depending on the version of Pokemon we're talking about, like in the TV shows, they usually do a pretty good job of breaking that down and going like, no, it's an actual relationship. They do fight, but the Pokemon enjoy it, and for them it's exercise. And whereas the Pokemon games, it really does kind of feel sometimes like I'm just grabbing stuffed animals and throwing them at my problems.
Yeah.
Um, and I wanted to break that immediately. I didn't want to make a story about enslaving creatures to my service.
Mm.
I wanted to make a story where the creation of that bond liberates both people. Because summoners are some of the only folks that can go between glades safely. They have the ability to do what spirits do, and spirits now have the ability to do what we do and build actual lasting connection.
A little avatar connection there, maybe like the connections of the two, basically the bonds and like kinship of the two spaces working together to protect both. Kind of vibe.
Precisely. Yeah, it even goes all the way into the very bones of the lore. The reason spirits exist in the first place is because Olan came first, this giant god tree
Mm.
sprawling through the stars, and it was lonely, and it found nothing out there. And so eventually it realized as it explored and it found the heat of stars and the wind and the cosmos and huge oceans of water floating through the stars, and it realized that while it was alone, it could make things. And so it made the first four spirits. And those are the origins of the elements in this setting. Ardes, Sepu, Vena, and I always forget the fourth one. That would be water. But it made these four spirits who were literally its children. And they ran into the same thing. They played with each other and realized, wow, I wish we could play with more people, but there's only the four of us and Alon. What if we made more? And they realized the only way they could do it was to make themselves into new things.
Mm.
So they basically broke themselves into millions of little shards and scattered themselves about because that would let them play with each other more. And in doing so, their free will separated from their power. The will became us, the magic became the spirits that they deal with. And Olan lost its first children and extended the covenant that it had with its children to us, which is why it was so pissed that we broke it and we tried to enslave it.
So it's literally lore that it's just reconnecting the two parts that were lost. So actually, that's brilliant. I like that. Side tangent,
Yeah.
I also agree with you. It does happen too often that people try to make nice things edgy. Like, I enjoy the thought process of, like, let's take this to its logical conclusion, but it's also like, hey, man, can't they just be, like, little dudes that sometimes want to scrap because they want to have some exercise? We have people that go do MMA all the time to entertain themselves. Let's just enjoy some Pokemon.
Yeah, no, absolutely. At
It's
the
like,
end of the day, it's one of those I want that experience between those two things to be a meaningful bond. And to do
exactly.
that, they the game. It can't just be you're my fun little fighting monster. It has to be what is the spirit gaining out of it, and what are we gaining out of it by doing it in a meaningful way. And so I wanted
Yeah.
to have that in the rules.
I tend to find when I'm doing these games, like the big benefit outside of like you're teaching me how to fight better is also protection, security, companionship, development, just like outside of like combat, but just development as a thinking entity is like they learn things, they grow, they apply different problem solving. That's a big thing. I think that's a thing that we often skip over is like we only focus on combat when it comes to this, but it's also just like you're you're literally a trainer. You're teaching them. You're a teacher, and people focus so much on the teaching combat, but like you teach them how to better themselves, and that's a big thing. But they also reversely teach you to be better. Uh,
Yeah.
in real life, I have a new dog. I lost my dog prior to sickness, and something I've been having to redo again after that because once you teach the dog, it's kind of set. Is learning that I need to better my habits to make their life better. I'm used to sleeping until 11 because I'm sad and don't want to deal with the world, but dog doesn't understand that. Dog needs to go out at 7 o'clock in the morning, so you have to learn to be better about your habits. Um, when it comes to your game, are there any habits you're trying to instill in the player base, like things that you want them to start reconsidering that's different than the usual mentality they have when they walk into a game?
Yes, actually. I first off, I really, I give you all my empathy for that. I understand that experience completely. There's this line from Isle of Dogs that really strikes me, which is the heart of a dog is a bottomless thing, and they are put here not to be our servants, but to provide us with an opportunity to know what stewardship to nature is. And so I really I dig that as a concept as someone who's owned dogs his whole life. Um, and I feel like that's an important thing I wanted to convey in Summoner is that what you are doing is bridging the gap between two estranged figures. Alon does not hate us. It is a figure of nature. It is nature writ stupid large. And so I don't want players to enter into the setting immediately and go, I want to kill God. Which, for the record, I as someone who's played D&D enough, I tend to be the guy who's like, I want to kill God in this game.
What's that
One
phrase?
of
If
them
you
at
give it
least.
hit points, they'll try to kill it. It happens every
Yeah.
time. Uh,
Especially if the setting has a very like makes the deity out to be kind of a jackass. I have a very strong what's the phrase? I have an accountability kink in that way. So I'm like, someone has to hold God accountable, and it might as well be me.
I stopped playing it a while back, but I do know that there was a recent release that had the Lady of Pain in it, and I distinctly appreciate that they specifically wrote in there that like she'll let you get some hits in, but eventually it's like, okay, I'm done, and she'll leave, so you can't
Yeah.
actually do it. Because I'm not gonna lie, I
Yeah.
personally, both in Pokemon and just in games in general, I think sometimes people make scope way too big for the thing they're trying to do. Pokemon, stop making it so that the world's going to explode. It's too big. It's too big of a
Yep.
scope. Just knock that shit off. Get people that are doing
Yep.
bad shit to Pokemon or the world, and I'll deal with it. Stop blowing shit up. But the same thing with like
Yeah.
TTRPGs. It's like, okay, guys, we're here to like defend the castle. 3 sessions later, okay, guys, we're gonna have to go stop God from punching the planet because he's mad. Pull it down a
Yeah.
bit. Just pull it down a little bit.
I very much like those stories, and you bring up a very important point for me. The sessions in the games I have most fun with are lower level games because of the fact that the scope feels personal and it doesn't become that. And there's a place for, again, fighting God, especially if you're a bunch of folks at a table who are really stressed out with the way the world is. It can be really cathartic to be able to make a massive impact.
Totally valid. Totally valid.
But at the same time, I feel like making an enemy sometimes of the world is as dangerous an impulse as doing nothing about it and not caring about it. And so in Summoner, one of the things I want to make very clear is that Elan is neither evil nor good. Elan is nature. Opposing Elan is no different than burning down rainforests out of spite because you got a splinter. It is a deity that is a reflection of our impact. And so that I think is an important thing for me. But even at that grand scope, what it really plays out as is players are going between glades, seeing what they need, finding ways to keep their balance. A glade might need trade, but they can't go through the forest because they'll be assailed. Okay, summoners can protect a grain train, can protect like a grain train or something. they can maybe there's spirits that have been thrown out of alignment with nature, and so they need an intermediary between them because spirits can absolutely fight between them. Your character, their job is to not just preserve the peace, but make the world a little better, and usually on a smaller scope. You absolutely can end up with bigger threats, but I never want it to be let's overthrow the cosmic order, because the cosmic order in this setting is not the problem. It's what it's become on the personal level for us.
I don't know why, but immediately the first thing that comes to mind is that scene from Billy and Mandy where Mandy goes to do a beauty contest, and they've upset the natural order. Oh,
Yep.
God. uh, this is going to be an awful tangent for this, but now we're nearing the end of making your character sheet, which typically only takes about 10 minutes, but I've been spacing this out so we can enjoy things.
Yeah.
We're now basically at the point where we're just going to have you tell us about your character. I'm going to need to align your starting stats. Everything starts at 5 except HP at 10. You get 10 to a lot, and you can't put more than 5 in any one thing. Is there anything specifically you think your character will be better at than anything else? So HP is HP, attack is physical fights, defense is how well you take a hit physically, special attack is how well you do special attacks, but that's not going to be a thing for you, I don't imagine. Special defense is how like fortuitous you are at handling stuff like that, and speed is just, I'm fast, boy.
Man, that's tough. I actually really like the idea between attack and speed.
Attack and speed? You can put 5 in each.
Very much. That sounds good to me. That sounds very good to me.
So it means that if you throw a punch, you're pretty good at it. It also means, coincidentally, the way this system works is you have 3 different types of evasion, and you can choose which one to apply. If you choose defense evasion, you're getting attacked by a physical attack, and that's evasion. Special defense is you avoid a special attack. Speed can be applied to anything, but the downside is if you only put into speed, your actual defenses also reduce damage you receive, so you can make yourself a glass cannon. So that feels right. Like speed, you can apply to everything, but it doesn't actually stop damage if you do get hit. So in this one,
that actually.
You're a speedy little boy that likes to, you can throw a punch. On that note, I think it's time you actually describe what your character is like to us, what their name is, what their vibe is.
Okay. I figure my immediate thought would be probably something like, let's say Researcher Jin.
Researcher Jim.
Yeah. Jin. Jin.
Jin. Last name?
Yeah, Jin.
Or just Jin?
We'll go with Bellry. Bellry. Jin Bellry.
I like that.
Thank you. I just pulled out of my butt. I want to say, we'll say mid-20s.
Mid-20s? I'll put 25.
Yeah.
He, they, she, it.
I feel they works for them.
They works. Oh, it'd help if I put it in the right panel. We're live, guys. I can make mistakes.
It wouldn't be a broadcast without them.
I'm going to just ignore that and I'll fix it in post. For those watching, I will be leaving this sheet as a read-only option in the things. You guys can peruse it, and I will be sending our lovely guest here a copy that they can edit if they ever do happen to want to run this system as well. That way it's pre-done for them. Height, weight, we can usually skip over. I'm assuming, do you have any physical descriptions you'd want to give this character?
I figure relatively lanky and wiry in terms of like an athletic hiker's build, kind of. Someone who's very used to wading through dark water and climbing trees.
Those calf muscles are just ready.
Yeah, exactly. Not the ripped, looks super muscular, I've been at the gym toned. The I'm outside all the time toned.
The climber build, the one where their finger grip is like enough that they could lift 25 pounds without even thinking about it.
Yes, exactly. This is the kind of person that hikes the Appalachian Trail as a fun run.
Oh god, those are I love side tangent. I love seeing those before and after photos of people that go and walk the trail, and like after they've lost like 20 pounds and their beard is like 6 inches longer. It's like, what have you been through? What have you seen?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I actually hiked the Appalachian Trail, not the whole thing, but part of it with the scouts when I was like, I think I was 17.
Oh,
and
man.
I never had thicker calves than I did after I came home from that.
People don't realize that walking on uneven like footing will improve your body drastically. You're so
Oh
used
yeah,
to
I
walking
live
on
in
flat
Vermont now.
surfaces that it's like, if you walk on uneven, like there's muscles that you don't work because you're used to walking on just flat streets.
Yeah, I
Before I
used to
forget,
hike for miles on flat terrain, but now I live in Vermont. I can only hike half that far. Go ahead. Sorry.
no, you're good. We did not yet name your Beedrill, who I
Oh,
have
this
not
is an easy
described to you.
one. This is an easy one.
Yes,
So every single Pokemon I've ever played, my Beedrill's name is Wormwood.
Wormwood. Any
That's
specific
my
reason for that one?
so I actually did a little research into it, and I actually really like the name Wormwood. I just think it sounds good. But also, two, it's actually a poison. But it's also used for medicinal purposes.
There you go.
So I always like the idea of it. It sounds like a gentle name that's given with care, not just like stab man, like I see a lot of people do
When
with
you're a
Beedrill.
kid, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I
Um,
always wanted a Pokemon name that sounded like there was some affection in there.
I think that for everybody, I know that Pokemon calls them your first partner Pokemon. I like starter just because it makes that's who you started with. It works mechanically, but first partner is also nice. For your Pokemon, when I usually do these games for myself, I usually say that everybody's starter, they just get to customize every bit of it. When you catch stuff, you get what you get, but when you're a starter, I want you to be happy with your starter. I figured for your starter, if we're going for whatever is mechanically best, the best nature would be naughty. That makes them
Hmm.
faster, and they take special attacks worse, but they're much faster when they're naughty, or they're much stronger when they're naughty. So I thought
That's
that'd be
fair. That's
appropriate.
right.
Also,
Yes,
it's a
it
bug
does.
Pokemon. I think most bees are a little bit naughty, let's be honest.
They're cheeky little things for sure.
I had to
Absolutely.
I had to escort one out of my house earlier. It got through an open window. And it's like, hey
Mm.
buddy, I don't want to hurt you. Please get in the cup. Please get in the cup. You gotta go.
Yep. That's the
Uh,
thing. Beedrill, I think, is a misnomer. It's not a bee. It's a wasp,
it is a
and that's
wasp.
like very clearly a wasp. We've seen bee. That's Combi. No, that thing's a wasp. It likes to mess with.
What's that thing? Is like when you see a bee, it's like, oh, thank you, pollinator. We love you so much. You see a wasp, it's like, fuck you, and go to hell. It's like, I'll tell them you sent me, and it's just getting sent off. I'll have to
Yep.
find that comic later and put it. It's like the end credits. It's just that comic. But so with that, just before we forget the other little bonuses, so we've gone over your character. I've made your trainer, your Pokemon for you. It automatically gets the sniper ability as its basic ability. Fun fact: Beedrill evolves before it gets a second ability. It just so fast. You get a second ability at level 20, and Beedrill evolves before that even happens. So it just gets stuck with its start ability. Cool thing is, Beedrill gets sniper. If you crit, you already are supposed to roll double dice. Beedrill gets to roll 3 times, essentially. If it
That's
crits, it
awesome.
basically triples its damage. You don't
That
fuck with
sounds
Beedrill.
about right.
And
Yeah, no,
due to
you
you
don't want
taking...
Beedrill to stick around to test that defense.
Yeah, no. Beedrill's like, I'm going to hit fast, and I'm going to hit hard, because if I get hit, I'm gone. And due to you taking bug type base, you get 2 really cool things. You get an ability to give yourself the ability to either give type strategist or last will. You only have 1 bug type move on here, so I gave them type strategist. You skipped over the one for the other bug move. The other cool thing is, because of your features, just as we're closing out, we're nearing the hour mark, so we're doing that. The other cool thing is, as a type base, you took Insectoid utility, which means that all the abilities that your starter has get bonus effects. So for this example, because it has a fly speed, it gets a +1 speed evasion. And because it has threaded, it may now perform combat maneuvers like grapple and push at range. Because it has string shot. So you can
I
really
love
string
that.
shot from the air and like mess with people.
Oh, I love that. That's so good.
Bug types are very good for getting a lot of power very fast. They bell curve out at the end, but that first part, it works out great for them. Uh,
Oh yeah, for sure.
There's a lot of other cool little stuff like this. I'm just going to read it. So you have Threaded. If your Pokemon had Wall Climber, they would be immune to push and trip effects because they got those little sticky legs. And if they have any form of Nature Walk, they would be immune to slow or stuck in the appropriate terrain. So, for example, your Beedrill, 1 second. I got to pull it up here. Got to move this. It has Nature Walk. Oh, surprisingly enough, it doesn't have Nature Walk. I probably forgot to write it in. That's on me. I'll look that up later, but I think we're coming up on the tail end here. We're at the 55-minute mark, so I want to make sure that I don't leave people like, Jesus, this long. Is there anything that you would like to additionally promote or advertise or just generally get eyes on before we end here?
For sure. So right now I've been doing two webcomics. Both of them are bi-weekly, so that means I have a new webcomic out every single week, whether it be Gentry Delon Ain't No Fascist, my Helldiver 2 story, or Brothers, A Tale of Treachery and Doom, my Space Marine Grimdark Future tale. And on top of that, all of my work goes through my Patreon. That's my TTRPG stuff, my broadcasting that I do on YouTube, and also my webcomic work. So if you want to support all that, you can find me on Patreon, patreon.com/the last Omnitect. And that'll be me.
I'll have all that down there in the description for you guys. Just because I haven't said in a while, I do have a Ko-Fi just because I don't make enough stuff for Patreon just yet. I don't need your money. I'm doing this as a hobby, but extra money does help. I did have to close my Etsy shop recently. Unfortunately, Etsy has just made it so ungodly hard for any creator that isn't, pumping out AI gen crap to make any sort of progress, especially if they're not already established. I do have a bunch of those stickers still remaining. I'm probably just going to start giving them to people I see. But that said, I want to thank you so much for joining us on this, Omni. It's been fantastic to have you chatting with us. Hopefully, this might convince you to give PTU a try now that you have a character sheet all done up. It might give you some more inspiration for your own game. I think it'd be nice.
Yeah.
On that, I think we're just going to sit here, smile, and wave as we do the little outro. But thank you so much for joining us, guys. See you later. Bye.
Take care, folks.